Hey, yo, brothers. Something we got to talk about today: studs. Something that's always on my mind, and something I think is a huge problem in the black community is the stud element in the black community. Something we have to understand is, brothers, just like being a thug is a character, it is a problem, it's a character, it's a persona, it's an identity that people latch on to because they don't have a real identity. This is the same issue that we see with a lot of our women. They don't have a real identity as a woman. So they latch on to this identity as a stud. For example, I know when I was in, middle school, junior high, there's a lot of girls that were perceived as very unattractive. Let's call it what it is. A lot of those same girls, men really didn't want to hang out with her. They didn't want to talk to her. They didn't think she was cute. A lot of girls didn't want to be her friend. Why? Because she's not really that attractive. But come high school, that girl becomes a stud. Now, now how is she being treated? A lot of those same men that didn't want to talk to her because they didn't think she was cute, now they dapping her up like she's one of the bros. A lot of those same girls that didn't want to hang out with her and be friends with her, now they're looking at her differently. Now they want to talk to her. Now they want to lay down with her. And a lot of that is also connected to the fact that a lot of the men look at her as bros. Now she's becoming popular amongst the men. Now that she's popular amongst the men, now the woman with her groupie nature, she starts to gravitate towards the stud. And the stud is going to have the upper hand when dealing with the woman because the defense mechanism that the woman has is dropped. So her guard is dropped. She doesn't feel shy around her because she's a girl. So she doesn't feel shy. She feels comfortable. She knows on a deep intrinsic level that you understand her because y'all are both women at y'all core. While at the same time, you're giving her this energy of a man because you're trying to channel that spirit constantly. Brothers, a lot of these women that are studs, they suffer from an identity crisis. They realize, I receive all this adulation, I receive all this praise, I get treated in an exalted way when I walk like a stud, talk like a stud, dress like a stud, get my hair braided a certain way. Studs, their natural voice is very light and high pitched, but they do their most, do their hardest job, their best job to make their voice appear as deep as possible. That's what they do. And they maintain that facade and that persona because they realize that they're treated a certain way. Something we have to talk about, brothers, is identity crisis. Do you have an identity crisis? The vast majority of people in America have an identity crisis. Why? Because this is a deculturalized environment. You are removing the concept of gender, and particularly amongst the black man, he doesn't know what to be. He doesn't know what character to latch on to. Is it going to be an NBA player, an NFL player, a rapper, a thug? You talk to the vast majority of young boys and particularly teenagers in the black community, especially across the ghettos. That's what they are. They are aspiring to be rappers, basketball players, thugs, street dudes, scammers, drug dealers, rappers, and all a rapper is just a the embodiment of a street character with a microphone in his hand, singing and dancing on a stage. That's all a rapper is, the embodiment of a street man, street dude. Because most rappers, that's what they are. That's what sells. If you are not an ignorant NIGGA, it's going to be hard to make it in the music game. So brothers, if you're an intelligent brother, not saying you shouldn't pursue your music career, go ahead and do you, see what works. If you're talented in that area, knock yourself out. But in general, if you're not willing to play that character and play that role 100% being a street dude, you're probably not going to make it in rap. Something we have to understand, man. An identity crisis, man. A lot of brothers, man, they get tattoos all over their body and they realize, damn, I'm treated this way when I get tattoos. When I speak illiterately and don't enunciate my words properly or pronounce my words properly. People think I have an accent, or people like the way I'm talking. So I'm going to speak broken grammar, broken English purposely. I'm going to put gold teeth in my mouth, and gold teeth go back years, brothers. There's nothing necessarily wrong with it. But in general, most people are doing it not because they want to view themselves as a king or some sense of royalty. They're doing it because they want to be associated with being a down south dirty NIGGA. They doing it because they're seeing their favorite rapper doing it. They're doing it for all these negative, toxic, corrosive reasons. At the end of the day, brothers, you don't see anybody that's in a high position of power in this society that has gold teeth in their mouth. The only people you see doing that are rappers. Not to say anything is wrong with it necessarily, but we have to start from the ground up and rebuild our culture. We really do. Once again, identity crisis. Do you have an identity crisis? A lot of these girls, man, a lot of these girls are studs. They have friends. They'll have female friends and or female girlfriends. They get to go over their female girlfriend's house in middle school and high school. I've had girls tell me this. They'll tell their little friend, like, hey, ask your mom, can I spend the night? Ask your mom, can I come over? You sneaking your stud in the house after school. Your mom come home from work, be like, who's this in my house? You got in my house? Oh, this just my friend. And she's a girl, so your mom not gonna trip. But if that was a boy, your mom would have tripped. But because it's a girl, you can play it off. Yeah, this such and such, this Brittany from school, blah blah blah. Don't even know your girl up there getting her little cooter mama licked on. They have the upper hand. That this is how so many girls are able to turn out other girls in these middle schools and high schools and things of that nature. That right there. Not only does it drop the defense mechanism of that girl they're trying to lay with, but also the parents. The parents are not even thinking that their daughter is possibly engaging in that alternative lifestyle. The stud problem, brother, this is a huge problem. And at what point does the stud say, okay, I'm too old for this. I'm too big for this? At what point does the stud say, okay, I'm not going to be 45 and still living this lifestyle? A lot of times, the thug, he turns 45, 50 years old, and he can say, you know what, let me reform myself. If he has that option, because a lot of times the options for the thug is the streets lead to jail, incarceration, death, or you have no choice but to reform yourself. Which one is it going to be? Because if you don't reform yourself, you realize that the aftermath of that is going to lead to you being in the afterlife or incarcerated for the majority of your life. At what point do you say, I want to stop going to jail? At what point do you want to say, I'm tired of getting shot at? At what point does the stud realize that she's not a man? At what point does the stud realize that she's not one of the bros? At what point? At what point, brothers? It starts at an early age, man. Once again, it starts with the man. It starts with the young boys. Young boys treating these studs with preferential treatment. Treating them like one of the bros. The stud is not your bro. The stud needs correction. The stud is suffering from an identity crisis. I'm going to sign out, brothers.